This morning at the markets, I saw the most incredible scallops. Look how fat and plump they are. They are one of my favourite seafoods to cook, and I'm going to do something a little special with them. I'm going to cook them in some beautiful leeks and cream and serve it in the scallop shells, just like a little pie, so a little bit of puff pastry on the top. So I've just been preheating a pan. You want it to be quite hot to sear off the scallops. What I want to achieve here is just a light crust on each scallop, so not cooking them all the way through because they will cook again in the oven. So it's just about forming that caramelised crust. So olive oil and salt, and I'll just coat them all over. And these go in for no more than 5 seconds on each side. So good sizzle, and you'll see it smoke up, that's okay. And then as soon as you put that last one in, grab yourself a spatula and turn. And you can see how they caramelise straight away. That's what we're after. Nothing worse than an overcooked scallop. When they're just slightly opaque in the centre, they are so tender and sweet. When they're overcooked, they become quite rubbery. So just a quick turn. Oh, look at that, fantastic. And then give it another 5 seconds. And straight out of the pan. Now we're just going to let these rest while we continue on with this luscious sauce that's going to go with it. It's luscious yet super simple because I really want those scallops to shine in this recipe. And we'll just place that to one side while we get onto the leek. So I've got one leek. I'm just using the light green and white part of the leek because it's the most tender and sweetest part. Because scallops are so delicate, I prefer to use a leek as opposed to an onion because it can be overpowering. The sweetness of this leek is really going to pair nicely with it. So I've given it a really good wash. With leeks, you want to wash it because a lot of the dirt is held right down here. So just cut a crisscross in the leek when you bring it home and then run it under some cold water just to clean it quite well. And it seems like quite a lot of leek, but this is going to cook down for about 10 to 15 minutes and you'll see it shrink significantly. That should do it. And I'll turn the pan back on. And you can see there's some little caramelised bits there from the scallops. That's fantastic, that's flavour. We'll add another splash of olive oil and some butter. And then in with our leeks. Now do cook this on a low heat. I don't want too much colour on these leeks. A little bit's okay. What we're really trying to achieve is the softness. So continually stir it and cook that for about 8 to 10 minutes. And while that's cooking, I'm going to prepare my puff pastry. I'm just going to cut them into circles, and the circles ideally need to be a little larger than the shells that you're going to use. Now I'm using shells, but of course if you don't have these, you can just use ramekins to make these delicious scallop pies. All right, my little pastry rounds are ready to go. I'm just popping them between a couple of pieces of baking paper. It will just make it so much easier when I'm assembling later on. All right, we'll just move that to the side. We'll use that for another dish. And let's have a look at these leeks. See how they've cooked down? They're softened nicely, not too much colour. I did add a good pinch of salt. The salt also helps some of the liquid come out of those leeks so they don't burn and they soften nicely. All right, I'm going to turn the heat up just for a moment so we can deglaze with some white wine. So a good splash of white wine. This is now coming to the boil, which is a good sign. It means the alcohol's cooking off. We can add our cream. Now I'm going to be using some cooking cream. This is great because it heats up without splitting, which is really handy, particularly when you're using alcohol at a high temperature. So it's bubbling away like this. It won't split at all. So in with a good amount of cream and give that a stir, and that'll thicken up quite quickly. Now, I do want to cook this off for another 3 to 4 minutes to really get thick because I want it to be one of those luscious sauces just like you'd have in a fish pie. So let that reduce slightly while we get back to our scallops, these plump little beauties. They'll be still rare in the centre, which is what we want. And I'm going to cut them just in half, okay? And just cutting through these just like butter. So it depends how you want to serve this. If it's for an entree, I would serve 1.5 scallops per person for a particular pie like this. If you want it to be a main and you want to put this in a ramekin, you can add some more scallops. Or why not take it even further and use a variety of seafood? You could add some prawns to this. You could also add some pieces of fish, would be really great. So I'll place that back onto the plate. And I want some parsley, so a few sprigs of parsley, leaves only. And we'll just roughly chop that to go into our sauce. And you want to leave that to the very last minute. You could also use some chives for this, would work nicely. Okay, in it goes. It takes moments to thicken up, which is what you want. Heat off, and we are ready to start assembling these. So we'll grab our cute little shells. And I always like to start with the sauce. So sauce on the bottom and then sauce on the top. A spoonful in the base. And we'll add a few pieces of scallop and then a little bit more of the sauce on top. Really want it to be lovely and creamy, lush. Fantastic. Now for our pastry, we need to egg wash that. So 1 egg straight into a bowl. Give that a bit of a whisk. This is like the glue, so that is going to stick that pastry onto the shell. So just around the shell, a bit of egg wash. We'll grab 1 piece of puff pastry, place that over the top. Just press the sides of that pastry so it sticks on it. It's supposed to look quite rustic. I don't want it to be perfect, but I do want it to stick so it doesn't fall off as it cooks. And that one is almost good to go. I'll add a bit more of that egg wash over the top so they glisten as they bake in the oven. And if you like, you can just place a small little hole in the center just so some of that steam can evaporate. And I'm going to continue making these, and I'm not going to put them in the oven straight away. I like to place them in the fridge for about an hour just so they really chill up. Then they go straight into the hot oven around 190 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes or until the pastry is golden. Now I like it to be cold in the fridge because I like to give the pastry enough time to cook without overcooking these glorious scallops. So it's all about timing. Worth it because these are so good. My beautiful scallop shells have come out of the oven. You can see that puff pastry is cooked. I actually gave it 25 minutes in the oven. So you want to leave it in the oven until they're really golden brown, just like this. When they come out, do cool them down. You want them to cool down for at least 5 to 10 minutes because they're going to be piping hot in the center. And to present them, well, you can place them onto a platter and take them to the table. Or if you want to do it individually, I still like to put a little bit of foil there just so it can balance as you tuck in. And that's just so it's stable, but just to have a look how beautiful it is underneath. You can see that shell there, and the pastry is completely sealed off the gorgeous creamy scallops inside. And what I really like about this is the theatre of it. When you crack into it, you've got the magic of all those beautiful flavours. So without further ado, let's have a look at this. Oh, the pastry is flaky. Push away that flaky pastry. Look at the creaminess of this. I've got to have a taste. Still piping hot. It's the most beautiful surprise. Creamy, sweetness of the leeks, the scallops cooked to perfection. This is such a treat. When I want to impress someone, this is the entree. I serve them.